When it comes to perfume sampling, I have a problem. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Sense for Thought. I'm Mo, and today we will be talking about the sampling versus blind buying debate. The sampling paradox. Is it cheaper? Is it the best way to sample perfumes? We'll talk about sampling to begin with. We'll talk about blind buying, the pros and cons of each. And in the third part of the video, I'll be telling you my take and what I will be doing moving forwards. And also, I'll be giving you a guide on how to make samples and decants that are actually good using a few cheap syringes. So without further ado, let's get started. Sampling. On paper, it's the perfect way to sample a fragrance, is to buy a sample of decant. You spend a little bit of money, $5 to $10, and you get a sample shipped straight to your home. You don't even have to leave the house, and you can try the juice on skin and decide whether it's for you or not. You give it a few wears, and happy days. Sounds like it's too good to be true, right? And I'm the living proof that it is indeed a little bit too good to be true, because I have many problems with samples. Let's talk about it. Now, problem number one is that I have way too many samples. I even bought this fake leather-bound book to put my samples in, and holy shit, I have about 4 of these for my samples and decants, and it's still not enough. It became too expensive. So I put them in these glass kind of containers, and I've got at least 5 of these filled to the brim and 5 bags of additional samples. I have way too many. Now, therein lies the problem with samples, is that it is a sunken cost. Now, let me explain what I mean by that. So problem number one with samples, not only is it becomes plastic waste and garbage and occupies so much space because no one wants to put something in the trash that they have spent their hard-earned money on. Am I right, guys? And you might be thinking, just give it away when you sell a fragrance. And I do, but everyone does that, and you end up with like 5 new random samples that you never heard of, and then they just join the collection of samples. And it's just occupies so much space. And if each one of these costs approximately £5, holy shit, guys. How much are my samples? How much is this entire thing? I could have bought a full bottle of a perfume that I love for one of these, and I have at least 10 times more samples than in this little book. That's a lot of money. It takes up way too much space and just becomes mental clutter. And I'll be honest with you, I never spray any of my samples or decants. Some of these are quite sizable. Like, look, I have a 10ml decant of Amouage Meander. I've sprayed it once because I just don't go and wear my samples and decants. They're just not attractive enough, you know? They're just there. Even when I try to store them in a nice way so I can have a look and flick through this library of samples, I just don't. I just go for the full presentation. It's just more enticing, more eye-catching, more exciting. So these end up collecting dust. Issue number 2 is that these have 0 resale value. Okay, you cannot do anything with these. After you spray them, they collect dust in your drawer, you put them in the trash, or you give them away. So value is 0. You've basically spent £5 to £10 on each one of these, and after you've done your thing with it, it's done. So this is Monkey Special by Xerjoff. I sprayed this maybe twice, and this definitely costs about £10. And this is probably a few years old, and it's probably gone off. And that is my other problem with samples and decants, is that most people don't do it properly, and they end up going off. And it can be the worst first impressions of a perfume. Let me tell you 2 examples. So I bought a 10ml decant of Chypre Palatine by Perfume MDCI. On paper, it sounded like the perfect scent profile for me. I got the sample in. It was a decant, not an official sample, about 10ml. I sprayed it, and it smelled like kind of rotten pickled lemons. And I was like, whoa, this smells pretty shit. So I gave it to my friend Daniel from Seldomly Often, thinking, you know what, you like kind of weird smells. Enjoy, my friend. Here it is for free. And he sprayed it when he got home, and he was like, dude, this is terribly gone off. It's definitely not Chypre Palatine. And I'm like, well, how the hell am I meant to know? I've never smelled the thing. So my first impressions of that perfume was from a gone-off decant that was bright orange. It looks like it was 10 years old, been baking in the sun or something. That's what must have happened to the juice. It started to go off and go bad. And now I thought that Chypre Palatine sucked. Turns out it's a great fragrance. I just had a bad sample / decant. And we'll touch upon how to do good samples and decants in the third part of this video. And he was like, this is not Chypre Palatine. Like, it's gone badly wrong. Go sample the real thing. So then I sampled the real thing and I was like, oh, this is amazing. I love it. It's fantastic. And for the longest time, I thought it was crap. Here's another example. This one involves one of my other favorite YouTubers, Rafi, from the channel Rafi Durand Bassclef. Link for both in the description. He said in one of his videos that Rochas Louis is his favorite fragrance of all times, even better than Gucci Pour Homme, which is the rumored favorite fragrance of his. And I was like, I love Rafi. I love his taste. I'm going to go buy Rochas Louis. And bottles were impossible to come by / ludicrously expensive because it's discontinued. So I thought I'll outsmart everyone. I saw someone selling 30 carded samples. Holy crap. I think it might have even been 40, 1.7 mil. I was like, let me buy all of them for like 20 quid and decant them in this nice glass bottle. That's what I did. I think it was 42 and I have 2 left. So it was 40 times whatever, however many millers in this. And I was like, perfect. I've outsmarted the system. These are official carded samples, by the way, not made by some bozo in his basement, which is probably what happened with the Chypre Palatine. And that's why it's gone off. So even the official carded samples also go off, because this, my friends, has totally lost its opening notes. Yeah, something off about it. There's like an additional spicy thing. The lemon is flat. It smells like an old book in a library. And I thought, damn, Rafi's taste is trash. And then I've bought a partial bottle. And guess what? This is amazing, guys. This is an incredible fragrance. And I was like, I knew Rafi did not suck. Wow, this is smooth. This is like a R&B record from the 90s smooth. It's fantastic. The lemon is bright. It doesn't smell dusty or spicy. Nothing has gone off. The opening notes are preserved. And there is no rancid, gone off spice added to it. This is the real deal, and I'm so sad this is all I can kind of get for now. Definitely on the lookout for another bottle of this. And this was a failed experiment from a carded sample as well. And that leads me to problem number 3. There are some sample / decant elitists who are like, well, you should buy a carded sample, an official sample from an official retailer, from the official company. And I did. This is official as hell, guys. It's a carded sample. But because it's just not as airtight as a bottle, it just goes off, okay? So yes, it is better, and I do agree, than getting someone who's doing it in his basement, probably all wrong, giving you a sample. Carded samples are a little bit more trustworthy and reliable. You're increasing your chances, but your chances of having a sample that's a little bit not great are still pretty high. So that's problem number 3. Even the carded official samples, they're just not airtight. And that is the issue. They start to go bad very quickly. Now, another problem that I have with samples is when you get an official sample, this has not gone off. It's literally brand new. Dries Van Noten, Rock the Mer. You open the sample and out comes this piece of garbage. If you have sampled before, you know what this sample bottle is. It's the worst samples of all times, used by everyone and their dog. Nishané, Xerjoff, Dries. Most people have terrible samples. And you're already pissed off at how shit this is because it doesn't spray very well. It gets jammed. Guys, what the hell is that? I just pressed it 3 times and like a little droplet came out. These are shits, okay? And you're pissed off now. This is a terrible experience. It sucks. It doesn't spray enough. You're already pissed off. Already your mood has turned. And you're like, fuck this fragrance. I don't like it. And it's just terrible. I mean, let's look how terrible these official samples are. What the fuck, dude? Yeah, like, they're trash, okay? They're trash. And it's just, you start off with the scent on the wrong foot. But when you blind buy the bottle, you get the full presentation. You get to look at it and you're like, wow, it's fantastic and doing really well. And you handle the bottle and you're like, wow, this is a beautiful bottle. The atomizer, the cap, everything. You get the full experience. The full bottle sprays a lot more. So you end up thinking, whoa, performance is kind of good. Use one of those crappy ones. And you're like, performance is average. But you need to spray like 15 of those to have one regular full bottle spray. And you just start off on the wrong foot. The full presentation, whether you like it or not, makes a difference. It's just better. You feel it in your hand, you spray it, and you're like, whoa, that's more like it. You're like, whoa, I get more of the notes because this sprays more. You're like, wow, longevity is good. It's trash for this one, bad example. But generally, it's better than from a sample, right? So for me to really engage fully and have the perfume come out, rolling out the red carpet for it, the full presentation just makes your sampling experience or your first impressions so much better. And that's why I like to blind buy. But before we move on to blind buying and its pros and cons, there is one pro to sampling. There's only one pro I can think of, is that you give a little bit of money and that's it. Your losses are known. You're like, I bought the sample and it cost me $7 and I've lost that $7 now. If it's shit, put it in the bin and move on. There's no money held up in a full bottle, etc. You know your losses straight away up front. There's no cash held anywhere. So the pro of that is that at least you know what you're getting and you know that you've lost that money. Therein ends the process of you sampling. You hand over the $7, you get one of these, you spray it or dab it or do whatever hell you want with it. You hope it's good. You either enjoy it and go buy a full bottle, or you don't enjoy it, put it in the trash, put it in the drawer, give it away, and move on. And all you've lost is $7. It's very understandable, very easy to understand, obvious contract agreement in place. $7, here's your sample, and now its value is $0. And you're okay with that because at least it's well understood and well defined. There is no variation. So that is definitely a pro. I have to give sampling that. Overall, does it save you money though? Let's move on to blind buying. Now, the pros of blind buying, I'm sure you guys are aware. You get the full presentation and you get to marvel in its glory. I mean, I don't know how I feel about this bottle at the moment. Some days I think, no, it's kind of nice. Some days I kind of put it down and it starts wobbling and I think, how stupid, what a stupid bottle. So maybe in this instance, a sample is better. But you get the full presentation and your mind is already more receptive to the product. Secondly, you get a good atomizer and the juice is protected. It has not gone off. And that is a huge pro of blind buying. You know that this juice is preserved. You know that this has value. Now, here's the biggest pro of blind buying. This has value, okay? I can buy this. Let's say this cost £30 or $30. I can buy this, I can sample it, I could give it a wear or two, and I could comfortably sell it most of the times for just a little bit less than I bought it for. This, on the other hand, has zero value. So let's do a real life example of the financial implications of sampling versus blind buying. This is a bottle of Amouage Jubilation 25. It's a mid-vintage, not the oldest thing in the world, but it is what it is. Okay, let's say you can buy this for £180 in its used state. Okay, you buy it, you spray it. Let's say you use 1 ml of it, 2 ml of it. Over a 1 month period, you really take your time. Let's say this costs $200, just for example. Okay, realistically, you can sell this back after using a couple of ml. Probably if you use the secondhand market for the exact same amount of money minus shipping. So sampling this costs you the shipping cost, which is probably around $5, right? But you had a much more safe sampling experience where the juice is real, it's legit, it hasn't gone off, you have the full experience, so you have a better time sampling the product as a whole rather than just sampling the juice. Now, if you sell it on the secondhand market, you could potentially make profit. I don't tend to do that. I sell everything that I buy in my Facebook groups for less than I bought it for. just because our group has the ethos of being not for profit. So even if you're a Robin Hood of frags like I am, of course, let's say I bought this for 200, I would put this on the group for 199 shipped, which means to sample this, and let's say I use 1 ml, it cost me $1 plus shipping, or approximately $6. Now, to get a 1 ml sample of Jubilation 25, you're looking at least $10 shipped, okay, at least. Now, you tell me, which method is cheaper? In this example, buying the full bottle is cheaper, okay? But there is one caveat. Before you go out there blind buying to sample, there is one caveat. You have to only do that if two things exist. One, you have the cash flow, because you have $200 held up in this bottle as you sample it. So if you don't have a couple of $100 lying about that you're happy to hold up in this bottle on your desk or in your wardrobe until you're done sampling it and then sell it, then don't do that, because that would be very dumb. The second caveat is choose wisely. Jubilation 25, I can sell this within 5 minutes if I wanted to. But I did this stupid sampling thing with Bortnikov Sayat Nova, where I bought the whole bottle blind, and I could not sell that crap for 6 months. So, yeah, choose something popular. It's a lot easier to sell than something very niche, unless you're willing to take a big loss, of course. So that's the two main cons, really, of blind buying as sampling, is that A, you will have to sell it and ship it, and that does take more effort than just taking the loss. Even though financially, it costs roughly the same, this could be cheaper than buying a sample overall. You still have to advertise it, package it, go to the post office and do that. So it does take a little bit more time. And the second con is that you need to have the cash available to buy the bottle. You don't need the cash in your pocket, then just go ahead and do this. But if you need cash in your pocket, just buy the sample and accept the agreement ends there. That sample is now worth nothing. And the other con, of course, is if you buy something super crazy that no one really cares about or is into, yeah, you might struggle to sell that. So be very careful. Now for the finale, my how-to guide of making samples and decants. Before we get onto that, I want to say I'm not telling you you should blind buy, and I'm not telling you you should buy samples only. I'm saying there are pros and cons. Now, this video is not advice. It's just to open the conversation and discussion. I'll tell you what I personally do. When it comes to vintage, discontinued frags, old formulas and old batches, and popular fragrances that I'm confident I can move on with ease, I just go ahead and blind buy, because it's just better for the reasons I've listed. It ends up somehow being cheaper or the same price. I end up having less clutter overall after I move the bottle on. And if I love the bottle, then it's already here. I don't have to go and buy a sample, then buy the bottle on top. You see what I mean? And overall, that works well for me, where I feel like I can hold up a little bit of cash in the few bottles that I'm testing. And I'm okay with that. Okay. Also, I live in the UK. It is a big market for used fragrances. So I can sell things a lot easier than maybe you can. When it comes to fragrances that are a little bit out there, not too popular, very niche, artisanal stuff, then I cough up and buy the sample. After my Sayat Nova experience, where I sat there for 6 months collecting dust, holding up my money, doing nothing, I was like, yeah, I should have bought a sample of that, because I just couldn't shift it. It's finally gone. Not a fan, I have to say. So yeah, that's what I personally do, but it's relevant for me, where I live, my local fragrance marketplace, my cash flow situation, and just what I feel comfortable doing. And I think a mixture of both is probably good for most people, but for some people, you just can't do what I do and blind buy 2 sample, and you end up having to buy the samples. Of course, do I go out and sample in shops? Yes, but I live in the middle of nowhere. Okay, guess what? If I lived in a major city or in London, then yeah, I would probably be in Harrods every single day of my life wearing a brand new fragrance to sample it properly. And I wouldn't buy a sample or blind buy, because most things are available there. But I simply don't, okay? Even my local shop that has good fragrances is over an hour ago. My local shop that has bang average designer crap is about half an hour away. and there's really not much to, it's just not worth it. But when I lived in a major city, or I was working in a city center of a major city, and I had a big shop, I was in there every day. I was in there every day on my lunch break. And if you live in a big city or near a big department store, that's probably what you should be doing rather than blind buying or sampling. But like I said, that's just not feasible for me. Someone that lives in the middle of bloody nowhere. Okay, I'm not in London, I'm not in New York, I'm not in Paris, I'm not in Milan. But if I was, things would be a lot different. So I think what you do should be tailored to all of these aspects: financial situation, local marketplace, local stores availability, and what you personally feel comfortable with. Samples, samples, samples. Now in the finale of the video, it's time to do a how-to guide. How to make samples and decants that not only smell like the real thing, don't go off, don't leak, and are not compromised in any way, shape, or form. Let's begin. Now, where sampling exists for me is I like to give samples to friends because I like to share the juice around. That sounded weird. Anyway, so I make my own samples to give to friends. And to begin with, I was a total amateur. I was buying this plastic garbage from Amazon, and I was getting the bottle and I was spraying it in there, getting it all over my hands like a bozo, and then putting a crappy little label on it and just giving it to them. Here you go. Please sample this, good sir. And that was dumb. The dumbest thing ever. Because when you spray your perfume into a sample bottle, you're introducing air into the equation. The particles are dispersing and then landing on this plastic nonsense, and you're ruining the perfume. You can't double spray it. You sprayed it once into here, and now you're spraying it out again. You've just introduced a ton of air. You've probably wrecked the opening notes at the very least. It's not a good idea, guys. You can't disrupt the juice like that. And then you add it to this plastic thing, not even filled to the top. All of this air, plus the air you've introduced into the juice, is just breaking down the frag, and then it's leaching into this plastic. Plastic is not very good for frags. So let me tell you my top tips on how to make samples that actually last and stand the test of time, so that others get to enjoy perfumes without having them go off or smell bad or be a gone off version of the real thing. So lesson number 1 in how to make a good sample, a decant that stands test of time a little bit longer than the other ones, is use glass atomizers, guys. They're not that much more expensive. The plastic doesn't leach into the juice and does not affect the juice at all. It's just worth it. Just go on Amazon or go on whichever Chinese website of your choice and buy some glass atomizers, and try and buy atomizer that is the size of the juice that you're giving away. That's another top tip. So don't go here, buy a bunch of 10 mLs, and then you give your friend a bloody 2 ml sample. Okay, because all that air is going to break that crap down. So just buy, if you tend to give away 2 ml, buy 2 ml glass atomizers. If you tend to give away 1 ml, come on guys, let's give away a little bit more to our friends. And buy a 1 ml. If you're out here banging out decants, then buy the big one. It's well worth it. So that's lesson number 1. Lesson number 2, do not spray the bottle into the glass atomizer. My goodness, I don't care if you use one of those long extendo clip things. Don't, okay? Just don't spray it. It's dumb. It's stupid. It's ruining the juice. It's going to go off. That's probably what's happened to a lot of the samples that I have that keep going off. So what's the solution? It is these cheap disposable syringes. You get like 100 of these off of eBay or Amazon or your Chinese website of choosing. And you get this thing. They come in different sizes, 2 ml, 3 ml, 5 ml. I don't know. The sky's the limit, I guess. The size doesn't matter, okay? The bigger the size, the less of them you have to waste, or the less extraction you have to do. These come like this. They are sterilized. How nice. Totally overkill. And you have the syringe. This is a 3 ml syringe. I find that size to be perfect for me, because even if I'm making a 10 ml decant, I can just use this like 3 and a bit times. And it comes like this, and it has this thing at the top covering it. You need to dispose of that. Then what do you do with the syringe? How the hell do you get the juice out? Well, to do that, you need to buy another plastic adapter for the syringe. It's called a fragrance syringe adapter. It's a piece of plastic that attaches on the bottom of your syringe. You spin it in, and now it looks like this. They come in different sizes. Usually this medium size fits most bottles. Sometimes it's annoying and you need a wider one for stuff like Louis Vuitton and MFK. It's very cheap though. You can buy like a pack of like 300 for like a couple bucks, okay? I'm gonna do a live decant for you guys because I'm testing out 2 versions of Jubilation 25, but it's not fair to have a big boy bottle with a bigger atomizer out spraying little bro bottle, because then I'm just spraying more juice for this one, and I think that this outperforms it when that might not be true. So I'll be decanting them into 2 identical atomizers. Yes, I'm using plastic, but that's because I will be finishing these samples today. I will literally be spraying both of them today, and I don't want to put this in the trash. But for all intents and purposes, use glass, okay? I just have these 2 left over, and I want to get them over and done with, okay? It'll be fine for today, but glass is king. So now I have my 2 3 ml syringes ready with their plastic adapter. Let's get some Jubilation out. Step 1, uncap. Step 2, remove the atomizer tip. That was easy. And then look, this is a lot easier on a flat surface and when you're not filming it. So this will probably look really awkward, but it's dead easy, guys. If you just, I'm obviously don't have a table here, but essentially you just rest it on the table. I'm gonna rest it on my hand, and you press down. You press down and you pull up the syringe at the same time. I'm gonna do it, probably you can't see it here, but you press down and pull up at the same time, and you get a little bit of juice out. This now does not have anywhere near as much air as if you sprayed it out, and this is just a good sample. This is just the juice, okay? Just the juice. And then what you do is you get your ideally glass atomizer bottle, shove this thing in, and you depress the syringe. There we go, fantastic. And ideally, you should fill it to the top, okay? Ideally, you should fill it to the top. Now you put this in the trash. You could save it if you do decanting and then you label it, oh, this is my Jubilation thing. I don't have a decant business, so I just put it in the trash, okay? Then you put the top on and job done. These ones you just press down. The glass ones are usually a little spinny thing. And there you go. This is a sound sample. But wait, there is one more thing that I like to do that I think you need to do. Now I have to say at this point, I do recommend you wear gloves because your fingertips will ultimately smell like the fragrance. If you're doing multiples, don't do that. For me, I don't particularly care if my hands smell like Jubilation because it's my scent of the day anyway. But if you care, and if you're decanting something a little bit aggressive, yeah, wear gloves. Now the final step, other than labeling, is to apply some tape around the seam. I like to use this black electrical tape just because I'm extra, but just cheap masking tape will do the job. That just makes it a little bit more airtight. Firstly, it helps to make sure it doesn't leak. Secondly, it means no air can enter and ruin your juice. So this sample, if it was glass and filled to the top like I recommend, it will be on its way to lasting a much longer time than normal samples would. So I opened the conversation. What do you guys think? Do you prefer sampling? Do you prefer blind buying as sampling? What do you do? What do you recommend? What works for you? Do you think sampling is just a waste of money overall? Do you think blind buying is a feasible option? Let me know in the comments down below. How do you experience your new frags? What do you do? Because this is what I do. This is how I feel. So let me know in the comments down below. I hope the guide at the end is useful for you guys that are sending juice over to your buddies. Do it the right way. Don't use the plastic garbage. Fill it to the top. Use a syringe and make sure to tape it as well, just for extra security. I hope this video was helpful. Make sure to like, subscribe. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.